Hello, everybody. This is Scott Hutzbeth with Agent Mastermind. Super excited to be here with you guys, and I'm super excited to have Tonya and Michael on the call with us today. So we have Tonya. Eberhart is the founder of BrandFace and Branding Agent to Business Stars. She's also the author of 4 books on personal branding, so she knows what she's talking about. Tonya is humble. You know what's funny about this? Tonya's humble career began selling vacuum cleaners, and you and I think we went to different schools. Like, I did the exact same thing. Was it Kirby or Rainbow, though?
No, you did?
I did.
Then no, this is a fight, Scott.
This is a war. This is a war.
This is a
I
war.
sold Kirby.
No, neither one of those inferior products.
Oh,
I sold
all right.
Electrolux.
Oh, okay. So we do have a war going on here.
We do. Right. Wait, which one was yours?
Right. Mine was Kirby vacuum cleaners. Yeah. So she sold Kirby's to get through college. This led to a job in radio where she observed local business owners who were featured in their own advertising and positioned as local celebrities in their market. That's when she realized the power that personal branding has on a business. Almost 2 decades and many successful brands later, she founded BrandFace, which I love the name, a personal branding firm comprised of book series, speaking series, personal branding program that is designed to help real estate agents differentiate themselves. Michael Carr, awesome, amazing career, is an American top-selling real estate auctioneer. So this guy can talk really fast, I'm guessing. And the Abundant Life broker. During his 26 years of experience, he's been actively involved in over 74,000 transactions and licensed in as many as 27 states in the continental U.S. as a broker and auctioneer. Michael first met Tonya in 2013. When he became a client, he immediately put her exclusive personal branding concepts to work as his own brokerage. And as a result, his real estate business quadrupled over the next year. On the heels of that success, they decided to co-author BrandFace for real estate professionals, which became #1 in the international bestseller on Amazon. And today he is a partner and COO of BrandFace. What a freaking resume, you guys. Just like crushing it. Congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us, Scott. We've been so excited to come on here.
Absolutely.
I've been more than excited to have you guys here. But the Kirby thing, I always tell people that it was the best learning sales experience that I've had in my career because there's so much rejection.
No doubt. No, I have been told no more times than most people on the planet, and had doors shut in my face. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And learning to ignore that to an extent is just that was the best sales training I ever received.
Amen. I always say don't get emotionally attached to the no's, but they all have value.
Every one of them. Yeah. I'll leave you guys with this one thing because we're all in sales here, right? And the one thing that I learned from a guy named W.T. Howell, who was a general manager of an Electrolux branch in Gainesville, Georgia. He's since passed. But he said, no just means I don't know enough.
I like it.
Absolutely.
I don't know
Absolutely. That's new to me. I've never heard that before. That's awesome.
Really? Yeah. Well, see, it's shows like this that just bring this out.
There you go. Awesome. So what do you guys got for us today?
Okay.
Let's jump right in, get started, and share your wisdom, and let's help enough other people get what they want, and go from there. You guys look good, by the way. You guys do good on that flyer there.
Hey, thank you. That's what Photoshop's for. Hey, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm Photoshopped. I don't know about Michael. He's not, but I am. Okay, here we go, guys. So a lot of times we hear people ask us about personal branding, and that's what we do. We help real estate agents and mortgage brokers differentiate themselves, and that means set yourself apart from your competition in a meaningful way. And so one of the things we're asked quite often is, okay, how do you do that? How do you do personal branding? What do you do? Sometimes it's pretty cool to start with the myths, like what should you not do, right? Or what misconceptions are out there. So today we are going to debunk the 5 biggest branding myths. So I want to start by saying this: everybody has a brand already. You just may not really realize it, and you may not have formulated it into the brand that you want to represent you, because really the question is, does your brand match you? Does it help you to attract the ideal clients that you want to attract every day? And that the reason we do that is so we can work smarter, not harder. Instead of spinning our wheels, chasing after every type of possible prospect, we want to be able to attract those prospects to us that are that are best fit for who we are. So as you can imagine, there's a whole lot of misinformation out there in the world of personal branding, and that's what we're going to break apart for you today. So we are going to start with number one. The number one myth to bust wide open in personal branding is, quote, I'm already branded. Now, I know I just said everybody has a brand, right? And we all do, but we define personal branding a little bit differently. So for instance, we like to tell this story. When we first started working in the real estate genre, it was 5.5 years ago. I was on the phone with a lady in Arizona, and she said, hey, Tonya, you know, I really feel like I'm pretty well branded already. I mean, whenever I walk into a restaurant in our market here, everybody already knows, hey, that's Sherry the realtor. And I said, you know what, Sherry, that is an excellent start. However, let me challenge your thought process just a little bit. When you walk into that restaurant, let's say I walk in and I see you and I say, oh, there's Sherry, the realtor. But I look 2 tables to the right and there's Scott, the realtor. And 3 tables to the left, there's Michael, the realtor. So now who do I choose? Now who do I choose? So that's where the differentiation comes in. And are you branded differently? Is there something that is so unique about you that, or about your approach or your story that makes people remember you over everybody else? So what we do in BrandFace is we call it the BrandFace way. Define, develop, and display. It's the BrandFace way. And so I'm going to kind of take you through just real top level real quick exactly what we do in our program. So define is what sets you apart. We take a look at your point of differentiation, and a great brand should say these 5 things: what sets you apart, who you serve, how you serve them, what qualifies you to serve them, and how it makes their life better. Because your brand really, you know, and it almost hurts to say this, but your brand really isn't as much about you as it is about the person you're trying to help. You're defining yourself in not so much of an egotistical or arrogant way, but you're defining yourself in a way that says, hey, look at what I can do for you. And that's the big difference, the real big difference. So once we define what that looks like, and a lot of times that starts with what we call a brand identifier. You guys might call it a slogan or a tagline, but that brand identifier tells, like, it either says who you are or what you do or stand for. And that is kind of like that hook, if you will, that we build the brand around. It's what you want to be known for. So once we define those things, including who your ideal customers are, and we'll talk more about that later, then we move into development of the brand, and that's where we choose the brand colors, the logo, the images of you, collection of images that represent your brand. We get all those puzzle pieces and parts together, and then we're ready for the final phase, which is display. And we take all of those puzzle pieces and we put them together in terms of graphic design and put the messaging together with everything, making sure that we put your brand out everywhere, what we call all of your everyday marketing platforms. So we start with like your website, your social media channels, your collateral materials that you use every day, but your brand really infuses and goes into every single thing that you do and every way that you market yourself from that moment forward. So define, develop, and display is basically what we do. And we feel like someone isn't truly branded until their brand is defined, developed, and displayed correctly and consistently across all their marketing platforms. So I hope that explains why we look at it and say that's the biggest myth is, oh, I'm already branded. Because if you got your logo on stuff, you got your brand colors and your faces on a yard sign and your business card, most people think of themselves as already branded. And in the typical sense of personal branding, perhaps they're correct, but the way we do it and the way you must do it these days to really stand out is this way.
And Tonya, you know, I think, Tonya, I got a question for you. So a lot of people, I don't think, put enough emphasis on their brand, and they try, I think they, I feel, and I was like this until I hired a coach myself, you know, because like, and we've talked about this, but you know, the last couple of months, and it almost ties into everything you talk about, no matter if it's which social media platform, it's when you show up, it's your business card, it's your listing presentation, all this stuff. If it separates you, like, you got to find a way to separate yourself from the competition. And I think it starts with how they see you, because people, like, this thing that we hold, this phone that we're on, is the most powerful thing on planet Earth, and we can very quickly search somebody. I mean, I just searched you, found you on social media, and first impression is everything, right? We have 2 seconds to make a first impression. And so if you're not like all that on social media, then the perception could be not good compared to somebody else that's trying to compete against you. So why
Right.
what is it like? Is it just that we're slow to the game, or we don't take it as important as we should, or what do you think it is that's holding people back from doing something like this?
I think that when a few years ago, when the competition wasn't quite as fierce, we didn't really have to think about this that much. The business was coming at us, right? And now NAR estimates there are about 100,000 new agents entering or re-entering the industry every year, in terms of real estate agents, that is.
Wow.
And in the mortgage industry, I don't know how many brokers are coming into the industry every year, but we know that it's a lot, right? And so it becomes more important than ever when the competition grows and is so fierce, right? But if we look at it this way, we've really been missing it all along. Because it doesn't matter if it's just you in your market or if it's you versus 5,000 other agents, you still need to differentiate yourself. We define branding as the art of differentiation. And so, that is really what we're here 100%. To do. And that's a great question. And it's for several reasons. I think people look at it, and I can tell you what we've noticed in the last 5.5 years in working with a lot of the agents is they tell us, well, I don't really want to mess with that right now. I just need to generate leads. I got to generate leads. Give me leads, give me leads, give me leads. It's like that old Glenn Ross movie, right? I want the good lead. So a great movie, by the way. But there is a difference between generating leads, and generating leads that are right for you, and making sure that the moment you respond to those leads, they know who you are and what you stand for. Your brand precedes you. Just like you said, when you Google people, that first impression is everything. And I don't think people realize the vast importance of this in every single thing that they do.
Gotcha. 100% agree.
Agreed.
I didn't. 100,000 a year in and out.
Mm-hmm.
It's that big. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, it sort of segues into the second myth that we talk about in branding. When people say, "Oh, well, I already have a brand," sometimes people do have slogans or they have taglines already, right? And one of the myths is that tagline or that slogan has to say everything that you are, right? So like you could, your tagline could be, hey, I'm the real estate agent, or I'm the loan officer that can get you the money for the cheapest amount, or help you buy a house for the best amount and quick as possible, and I can close it when nobody else can close it, and I can get you. But that's a very long tagline. So, people don't have to, your tagline doesn't have to say everything. It has to try to encompass at a snapshot what you're trying to get people to be interested in. It's like a door kicker. Like it's, like all those doors y'all had closed on you when you were selling vacuum cleaners, it's like your toe in the door. Like, well, but let me show you one more thing. You want your tagline to say as much as you can about what you're trying to sell the client or customer, but it doesn't have to be everything. A great identifier or hook is just designed to capture the interest of the person that you're trying to deal with. Like mine is, my company is Anything Real Estate. And when Tonya and I first started working together, she didn't like it because she didn't feel like it was focused enough. And I said, yeah, but let me explain something here. We've got 3 divisions of the company, and they're all tied to real estate, whether it's investing or construction or sales or auctioneering, it's all. And she said, okay, that makes sense. But now we've got to lead everybody into the verticals that they need to be in. So the identifier can be something that just says, hey, this is what I do, right? And then your messaging and your content and the elements that you put to that to complete your brand will also further indoctrinate your clients into, number one, what you do, how you do it for them, how you're going to be better at it for them, and what they get out of it, which is really where that's where our messaging has to be spot on, is what is our clients going to get out of it. And so, like, for an example, lifestyle locator is one of the brand identifiers that we've used in the past, and it gives a big hint when it comes to real estate. If you're the type of person looking for a lifestyle, a golf lifestyle, a waterfront lifestyle, a skiing lifestyle, a inner city, out in the country, a ranch, it doesn't really matter, right? We all live a certain lifestyle. So lifestyle locator says exactly what you're going to do. I'm going to locate your lifestyle. Well, we don't know what that lifestyle is yet, but these are the lifestyles I deal in. And it also just further indoctrinates your clients into how they perceive you. It's another piece of the puzzle, if you will.
Yep. And what you're looking at here on the screen is a Facebook cover photo for one of our agents in Whistler, British Columbia. So that she's known as our lifestyle locator in that area.
Awesome. So, I mean, I've always been a big one on like promoting who you are and what you love to do, because so many people can relate to that. And there's groups for everything, right? Corvettes, Jeeps, Harleys, golf, horses, like you name it. There's a huge group in every state, everywhere. One of the questions coming in, and thank you for being here, is what do you say about promoting yourself? This is a great question, versus your brokerage.
Okay. Does this, yeah, exactly. Amen. So my first question would be the person asking, are they the broker? And is it their brokerage?
I would say they're probably not the brokerage, but
okay, we'll answer it both ways.
I'm just going to assume that. Okay.
Let's go on the safe side. We get this question all the time. So so if it is your brokerage, the way we generally do that is we do personal branding, one-to-one. Okay. So in other words, you as the owner of your brokerage are the face of that brokerage. You're the face of your brand and the face of your business. And so that is what we do with Michael. Michael is the face of his business, Michael Carr and Associates. And all of his agents underneath him kind of are brought in and attracted to his culture and the mindset and the business ethics and everything that he has set forth. He attracts them with his brand and they adopt that brand. But at the same time, they adopt the corporate brand, right? The company brand, and what it stands for. But at the same time, they each have their own individual personal brands, because one person might be known for, like what Kathy's known for, a very active lifestyle. She's a downhill skier, a runner, she's a pilot, she is a cyclist, and that she takes part every day in that lifestyle, and that's who she is. Now she works for a brokerage, and on this particular cover photo we don't have her brokerage logo, but normally of course they all do. This is just a sample, but you would display her brokerage logo on there too, because by law you must do that. So the brokerage logo has to be on there, but this is her personal brand logo. So if you're out there listening and you're a broker and you have agents underneath you like Michael does, I'll let Michael finish out this thought process too, because that's such an important question. It's just important to be the face of your own brokerage. Don't shy away from it. Listen, you're taking the risk, right? It's your brokerage, and you're bringing people underneath it that you want to be part of your team, but you're still that face and that image of the brokerage. So, and that whole business is built on you. And so allowing people to be their own personal brand and showcase what sets them apart is only going to help you as a broker. So maybe I answered that question both ways, but I'll let Michael pick it up here because he's actually lived that.
Yeah, some brokers, we've had to retrain to that thought process because they see it as competition, but it's not at all. Obviously, every time we put out some kind of advertising, we have our brokerage own that. By, like Tonya said, by law in each state, you have to do that. You have to identify, who the respondent superior is going to be. But what we do at Michael Carr and Associates, what we encourage all other brokerages to do, is to allow that agent to also be branded as a brand face. That let their face be out there in the neighborhoods that they are working, because the brokerage is going to cover a large area, geographical area, but that each agent is going to work in smaller segments of that, right? Because we can't reach but so many people in a certain day or certain week, a certain month, right? We only have so much space that we can try to reach. So each agent needs to be known in that particular neighborhood. So like if we have mail outs that go out, I will always show up. My likeness will show up somewhere on the mail out. And then the bigger likeness will be the agent that they're actually going to deal with in that neighborhood, because that's the person they need to get to know. I'm the backstop to say, hey, we've built this acumen and we've built this integrity that we're going to work from. And if for some reason something doesn't work out here, you can reach me. And it gives personalization to the overall brokerage, and also a backstop, but it's promoting the agent that's actually going to be working in that geographical area. So it's very important. That's why when the question was first presented, I said, do it. Right. Obviously get permission from your broker, but your broker should be open to that. We have brokers now that refer business to our BrandFace clients because of their tagline, that where their broker will literally say, oh, well, she's our lifestyle locator, or she's our home navigator, go talk to her. We're going to refer her to you. And it automatically gives another set of credence to that person on a referral, especially if it comes from the broker. So we've seen where agents have taken on those identifiers and talked with their brokers about it. And then when your broker is referring to you that way, then your brand is working. So I think it's very important. We're a facial recognition business.
Yeah, sure. What would you say about, because I see a lot of people take on the emails and stuff of their company that they're with. And so when they leave that company, obviously, the email that the people have is like gone,
Yeah. What I do is I look at real estate as a very entrepreneurial business, right? And there's nothing wrong with adapting to your brokerage's requirements. And most of the time, when they leave your brokerage, they can forward your email. If they're kind enough, they will do that, right? If they're professional, they'll do that for you for a time period. And then you can just notify everybody that your email address has changed. If you're really afraid of that, and if you have a broker that you're afraid won't forward your email and will just cut it off and completely cut access to you, I would say set up your own email accounts with, we use Google for our email. And so our domain, brandfacestar.com, goes straight through Google for email hosting. And I really like that a lot. It's relatively inexpensive. It's great. And you can reserve your own domain name. A lot of our agents have their own domain name.
Perfect. 100% agree.
Yep.
All right. You got time for one more question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Dave Smith, thanks for being here. It says, if you're not near a resort area, golf area, beach, shore, lake, just a regular Joe, isn't it? Just a regular Dave. How do you come up with a tagline?
Okay, we actually have a process that we take people through. We have a positioning questionnaire, and that's a great question, by the way, Dave.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because obviously lifestyle locator is just one brand identifier. There are lots and lots more that are a great fit for you. So we look at several different things when we brand somebody. And we put your positioning questionnaire through a system or an algorithm that we've written, and it comes back to us and tells us which of our brand identifiers that we have you will match up best with and at what percentage. And it's just fantastic. And then Michael and I put a human eye to it. But what we're looking for are these criteria: targets, traits, and intentions. So your targets, meaning your ideal customers. Most people have a primary and a secondary. If you have 6 or 7 ideal customers, you do not have an ideal customer. There's a whole other show we could do on choosing your ideal customer, and a whole system we take people through to do that, actually. But targets means you want to narrow that down and know who your ideal customers are. Think about it this way: if you start to promote yourself out there anywhere, market yourself on a postcard, for instance, how do you know what message to put on that that's going to attract the kind of people you want to attract if you don't know who you want to attract? So we start there first, and then traits, we look at the traits of those ideal customers, and the traits of you in terms of your attributes, experience, expertise, all those things that you bring to the table, and we match you up. It's kind of like a dating game, right? We match you up with that. And then finally, intentions just means we take a look at your short-term and your long-term goals, and making sure that the brand identifier and brand that we help build will settle all of your goals. So for instance, it doesn't matter whether you are an independent agent and you say, I don't want any team members, it's just me, I just want to grow my own business with maybe one transaction coordinator or whatever, that's fine. If you want to grow a team, that's fine. If you want to grow a brokerage to 150 agents, that's fine. We take a look at all those things and weigh them carefully before we brand you, so that that brand, if needed, can trickle down through an entire team or organization.
Yeah,
I hope that answered it.
It doesn't, like, back to number 2, like, it doesn't have to be something that captures everything. Like what, like one of the ones that comes to my mind is Bruce Simon. We had a client named Bruce Simon, and so we branded him Simon Says Sold, and it's just
nice.
Right? It's just, he was just, you know, an average Dave. He was an average Mike, you know, Bruce is a great guy, great personality, and everything is branded Simon Says Sold. And that doesn't matter if he's working with a buyer or a seller, it doesn't really matter. It says 90% of everything that he does. And then from there, with his imaging and his content, we built the rest of his profile so people know who they're dealing with. So it's something, when you're thinking about your tagline, you really want to put some thought into it, but it's not something to get stumped over. Don't get stopped and say, well, I can't come up with anything that's so spectacular. You know, it just needs to be something that makes you stand out and leads people to that next step.
It's a hook. It's like a good marketing hook. It captures their attention and gets them to, want to learn a little bit more. Did that answer the question though, Dave? I hope.
I'm sure it did. Yeah, that was good.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. I can't see the cameras, so okay. So we're going to move on to this one, and this might help answer that question too. Mm-hmm. Number 3 myth to bust open today is your brand shouldn't turn people off. Now, this one might surprise some of you guys. The answer is every great brand is polarizing. It's not going to fit everyone. If you fit everyone, as Michael and I like to say, if you try to help everyone, you'll just help yourself right out of business. So we want to look at your brand should state who you are and who you serve and how it makes their life better. Those 5 things we talked about a few moments ago, and it should really set you apart. But you've got to understand your brand is not going to be for everyone. Otherwise, you'd be in real trouble. So Michael and I like to tell this story. We have a friend named Linda Cruz out in California, and she is a video producer, and she is a spokesperson for a lot of companies out there in their TV commercials. And she had told me one time she had an audition coming up. So the week after her audition, Michael and I were on the phone with her talking to her. And I said at the end of the conversation, hey, Linda, how did your audition go? And she says, oh, I don't know. And I said, what? She said, oh, I don't know. If they're my people, they'll call me back. If they're not, they won't. And wow. Michael and I thought that was brilliant. It's like, do your best, do everything you can, put out your story, put out your brand, and if they don't come to you, then they weren't your people, and you just let it go. And it allows you to not take things personally. Sometimes it really isn't a fit. You know, if you've spent your whole life, helping, or your whole, real estate career, should I say, helping aging seniors to downsize and to move from their family home of 30-something years and downsize or prepare for assisted living, that's so drastically different from helping a first-time home buyer, right? Now, a lot of you help both of those. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you build your brand upon this and you really want people to know, hey, I specialize in this. This is really who I'm best designed to help, then it might turn off some first-time home buyers, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. So that a great brand evokes one of these 3 responses, by the way. They're either going to look at your brand and they're going to say, that's exactly what I've been looking for. That person is perfect for me. Or they're going to say, oh, that's interesting. Let me learn more. Or they're going to say, no, that's really not for me. And that number 3 is really just as important as the number 1, because that keeps you from spinning your wheels and wasting your time with people that you're not a fit for and that are not going to appreciate what you bring to the table. And I think that's about as succinct as you get that one.
Be who you, so more or less what you say is be who you are and be okay with it, and zero expectations of what other people think, because you'll attract the right people and the wrong people will go away.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You got it. You nailed it. That's it.
Love it.
Yes. And, you know, number 4, we're going to talk about sort of deals with Dave's question too, because it's everyone, you know, number 4 myth is everyone can say that, so it's not really different. Because when you're trying to think of a good tagline or whatnot, you might say, well, anybody can say that, right? And it's not really different. But what you have to keep in mind is, number 1, we all are different. Like, we are all made individually, and so we all bring some form of talent to what it is that we do. And when you take your life experiences that all of us have that have led us to our portion of real estate that, you know, and attracted us to become what we are, whether that's loan officers or real estate agents or attorneys or closers or, you know, processors or underwriters, whatever an underwriter is, right? And so these things have led us to differentiate ourselves naturally, because I'm going to approach a thing different than Scott's going to approach it or Tanya's going to approach it, and then I'm going to bring those experiences in too. So you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about how I want to establish myself and differentiate myself. You're looking for something that is inarguable. You're not looking for something subjective. Okay, so when you start to put it out there, it's almost like if you said, hey, I'm the best loan officer, that's very subjective, right? Because how did you weigh out whether you were the best? Did you do the most transactions? Did you have no negativity? Did you close everything you went after? Did you, right? Very subjective. If you say, hey, I'm different than any other loan officer, that is inarguable, because you are. No matter how we were trained, we could all be in the same room, trained exactly the same way. We all laugh about it. If you got multiple kids, we all know what we're talking about, right? Every kid's different. They're raised under the same roof, right? And it's because they all have their own personality and the way that they process things. So when you're looking for something that differentiates you or sets you apart, look for something that is going to be inarguable, that also leads people to where you want them to go, which as Tonya said, either immediately I got to do business with this person, or hey, this is very interesting, I want to learn a bit more. And that's when your content's going to kick in, or a video that explains what you do or puts people at ease, or your acumen that they are attracted to.
Yep, exactly. And I don't know how many of you have heard of that the book 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. But there is a law of leadership that states it's better to be first than it is to be better. And we thought that was fantastic, because let's just say you know, what you come up with in terms of a brand identifier that kind of sets you apart is something that other people could claim, then the question you have to ask yourself is, has anybody claimed that yet? If not, hey, plant that flag in the ground and go for it.
And own it. Yep.
Exactly. And then we have kind of like an addition or an updated version of that, if you will, not to be disrespectful at all, but just kind of a spin on the BrandFace way of saying things is, it's better to be different than it is to be better. So I maybe we should combine those two, Michael, and say it's better to be different and first than it is to be better.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it. I love the being different part.
Yeah. So the 5th one might also surprise some of you, especially the introverts in the crowd. Do we have a lot of introverts in the crowd today? I waver back and forth between introvert and extrovert, and it's a bizarre combination, actually. But I will talk to you all day long about business, but when it comes to my personal life, I've had to learn how to share some of those things, right? And so the myth number 5 is, it's not personal, keep it professional. And we've always been raised to think, keep your personal life out of business. This is business, right? But in personal branding, we have to really think about, since the beginning of time, really, people have really not done business with a quote company as much as they've done business with a person whenever possible. So in fact, our mantra is people don't do business with a logo, they do business with a person. And so what we like to do is when we pull brands together, this is why it's called personal branding, we pull in not just the professional side of you, but the personal side of you as well. Because people want to know the story behind the face. They want to know, what's your life like? You know, I sold vacuum cleaners door to door, you know, and Michael can tell you a little bit about how he grew up next too. But I also grew up in the moonshine capital of the world. It was Dawsonville, Georgia, tiny little town known for starting what today is known as NASCAR. And that's because they were the moonshiners were running from the law, and they were, you know, they were making the cars go faster and faster, and that's, yeah, there you go. Exactly. So that's a little bit of my background. I grew up in a really, really tiny town. I absolutely loved my small town upbringing. It taught me a whole lot. And then when I went to college, I paid my way through college selling vacuum cleaners door to door. Well, that was a whole different experience too. So all these things that how we get to where we are today is a combination of all the things that have happened to us and the choices we've made in our life. And people gravitate to that because that shows your character, it shows your choices, your mindset. And let's face it, you know, you do business with people. And so this particular photo actually is one example of how we took personally what we were doing personally, and we actually wove it into BrandFace. So we went to Kentucky Bourbon Trail not long ago, and we found out while we were there that these distilleries were just brilliant at branding. Every distillery had a specific point of differentiation about how their whiskey was made or their bourbon, the faces of the company, the owners of the company were very much in the story as they were taking us through the tours of the distilleries. And we thought, oh my gosh, this is such a great branding lesson. So we came back and we actually did, we do a podcast called Fearless Friday. And we did an entire podcast on the distilleries on the Bourbon Trail. And that was one example of where we took that personal and put it into business to teach a lesson. And that happened to be, if you can, it's probably no surprise to anybody, that was the most well-attended podcast we've had yet. And I'll share one more thing with you, and then I'll turn this over to Michael too, and let him share just a tiny bit about his personal life as well. And that way you guys will get to know us a little bit deeper than just this presentation. But one of the emails that received the most opens of any email we've ever had was actually an email where I told a story about the strangest branding conversation I'd ever had, and it was with my dad. And if you guys go to our website, brandfacerealestate.com, you search through the blog, the title of it is called The Strangest Branding Conversation Ever. And we were traveling on the way home from my son's volleyball game from Cincinnati back to Columbus. And for those of you who might not know, it's a long, long row of cornfields. And all of a sudden, my dad looks at me and he says, honey, he said, I thought of something. I have an idea that I don't think anybody's ever done. And you guys have to know my dad. He's quite the card. And I thought, oh gosh, here comes a very interesting conversation. He was pointing to a billboard. He said, you see that billboard over there? You see that space, that railing, that platform in between those two billboards there? I bet a man could live on that. And then we spent the next hour and a half of our ride talking about living in a billboard and going through every possible scenario to make it happen. And it was so funny. So anyway, that was the most opened email that we have ever sent out. And it was personal. Again, it was personal. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael here for a second on this last point and let him share his thoughts on this one too.
Yeah, well, I learned it from Tonya early on when really the first one was when we did some video. Let me put it like this. We did video shoot, and she said they need to know who you are. Like they need to know like your lifestyle, where you came from, how you were raised, how did you get, being an auctioneer is, even though our focus was real estate, like arm's length transactions on the brokerage, she said, who you are is so wrapped up in being an auctioneer. And your greatest success so far has been because you were an auctioneer. So we need to talk about how that sort of led you to where you are, right? And she said, show some vulnerability with it, and I did. And it's the story behind the auctioneer. And I talk about how I started and how I was so horrific when I started. My dad was even embarrassed to stand beside me at the auction, and it was, but I kept after it, obviously, and I'm still an auctioneer 26 years later. I still love it. It's one of the things I love to do. But it wove a really vulnerable part of my personality and personal experience into the business that we were trying to do. They already saw my face. Now they need to know who I am. And then the second one that we've had that we get the most traffic from even now is we did a bloopers video, because I wasn't used to shooting video, so it was always like cut. You got to do
great
this.
idea.
Great idea. And it shows just this, just how vulnerable we all are. Like, everybody's scared to death about, I tripped and fell in front of everybody. I embarrassed myself to death and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? So's everybody else. Like, everybody's done that. Like, you can't live in this world without some kind of story of being, I remember taking my youngest daughter to Washington, D.C. one time. We were riding bikes on this bike tour. She couldn't have been 10, and she fell, right? And because it's big old huge people coming from the park, are you okay? She said nothing was bleeding, she wasn't scratched up. And I was so proud of her because she could just burst out in tears, and she didn't do it. And I finally put my hand on her shoulder, and she just wanted everybody to go away. And I said, hey, honey, are you okay? And she said, yeah. And I said, all right, well, just leave your pride right there and get on your bike and let's go. And everybody laughed, and she laughed, and you know what I mean? Because everybody had already done that at some point in their life too. And when you put it out in a blooper video, people say, okay, this guy that's putting his face on a billboard or putting it into advertising, all that, he's not just some elusive ivory tower person that nobody can touch or feel or talk to or approach, or he's a real life human being that cares about me and wants to do business and does business fair. And so it's all a part of the brand that you're building.
Making you a real person. Makes you a real person.
Yeah, he's a real person, and they want to know that. And when people do, it's just like it just lowers that threshold to be able to talk to them. I remember a guy telling me years ago in the fence construction business, he goes, how I sell more fences than anybody? And I said, how? And he goes, I never sell a fence. I just talk to them about what's going on in their house. The kids.
Powerful.
Until they finally come to me,
man.
Well, you're going to price a fence, and he'd be like, oh yeah, let me go talk, let me go measure. And he's already made the connection that you need to be able to help people.
Isn't that interesting? All right. So are you guys? So how, if somebody, like, a lot of questions on that I want to go through, that I want to get to. If somebody wanted to work with you guys, and I don't know if you have any more, but this is great stuff. I can't stress how powerful what you guys are saying is, and putting yourself out there, and video marketing, and being real, and bloopers, and hey, I'm a real person. I messed up. We all messed up. I can't stress how powerful that is. But having it be in a format that when people come to you, first impression, they're like, bam, these guys got it together. But then, oh wow, they're real people too. I can't stress how awesome that is. So great job what you guys are doing, and how many people you're helping.
Thank you, Scott. We'll be happy to answer any questions or talk about that. So.
Okay, perfect. And then let me know when you want me to post that link for the freebie down there. And then I know that you wanted to, so just let me know when you want me to have that ready to go. So this is a great question. I love it. Been a single agent for 20 years, and now my husband and other agent will be joining me. I want to brand my team. What are the steps? I don't want to make it just me. Otherwise, I might have a problem growing the team.
Okay, I actually had this question yesterday from somebody who is coming into our program, and she said, I feel like if I promote the team, then it's going to let everybody know they're part of a team. But here's what I would suggest. You can do it that way. It's not a wrong way to do it, but it allows, like, what does your team stand for, right? and so in terms of Michael, we were able to highlight Michael as the face of that, of his business, like you would be the face of your team, and that helps people know who's at the helm, what kind of thought process and personality and so forth is at the helm of that business. Because underneath that, if you allow each of your team members to come on and adapt and have their own brand, that's really the very best thing you could ever do to attract team members. They won't be gravitated to you because they won't not come to you because your face is on a billboard or because your logo, they have to put your logo on everything. They will not come to you if you don't allow them to be themselves.
Got it.
I think that I tried to say that correctly. Michael,
yep. So maybe a name doing business as, or affiliated with, or DB, like whatever. So that's what we typically do. Is people have their own name, have their own identity, but a division of.
Right.
Almost like.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could, each one of the team members, because you have to keep in mind the other thing too. Any of us that have built teams come and go. They do, and it's building a brokerage is constantly undulating, right? We have times where we have several people come in at one time, and they may or may not find a fit. They can't get comfortable in their own shoes. Maybe they didn't want to stay in real estate. Maybe they discovered that. People come and go. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep that in mind. And what you're trying to do with a team is you want to find a differentiator that again is inarguable and also perpetual. And then each one of those team members, even if it's like a spouse that isn't going to go away, right, or a child, or like a family, which we see that a lot of times too, but then their individual taglines can always be a part of X group. And then that whatever that differentiator is constantly being pushed up further. Because I tell agents when they come with me, like, you don't work for me, you work for Michael Carr and Associates. Yeah, Michael Carr and Associates, anything real estate, that is the brand, and that's the brand even I work for. Like, everybody works for that brand, and so I feel like you want to do that as an overall umbrella, and then let each one of your individual agents either have a individual tagline or just be a part of that particular perpetual group.
And I'll give you, for instance, Scott, we have other lifestyle locators in different parts of the world, and there is a group of lifestyle locators. Like, the broker is the original lifestyle locator, right? That's why the brand was set around that particular broker. But anybody that comes into their organization can also put lifestyle locators, part of the lifestyle locators team, on their logo, and yet still have their own individual brand and tell their story the same way. They're just part of that overarching brand, as Michael says. It sounds quite complex at times, but it's really actually pretty easy.
So they're asking, how do I work with, like, how can I have you guys help me? Like, and Dave's asking, how do I get them to help me with all this? And so I don't know if you have a link, or what's the best way to.
Yep. So here's what we're just announcing, and well, not just announcing, we just launched it a couple of weeks back. We have taken every single step that we do in working with agents, and we have put it into an online course, step-by-step guide to personal branding, that you can go top to bottom and brand yourself. And it like every single secret that we've used, and not missing any steps. And I'm going to tell you guys, we're giving you a 67% savings on that today. If you want to post that link, Scott.
I did.
Okay.
That's the free the BrandFace Agent Academy.
Yep, BrandFace Agent Academy.
Okay.
And so in there is a course called Real Estate Brand Builder. Now, if you get in there, if you want to take advantage of that great pricing today, and you get in there and you realize, okay, this is really great content, but I still can't figure out how to do it on my own, there's an upgrade button you can hit in there at any time, and we will run to the rescue and say, okay, let's move you into this program. So this is kind of like the starting point. You get in there, you look around. If you like what you see, then if you want to upgrade, you can. If not, if you want to just kind of, hey, you know what, I got this. Now that they're telling me every single step I need to do. This is good. So there's a couple of different options. That is more like the self-guided approach. Start there. And then if you want to hit that upgrade button and have us come in on a bigger scale and do it for you, we can do that too. So, but that's going to give you a 67% savings for the next 48 hours. It's such a huge savings. We're only doing it for 48 hours. So it's a big deal.
So I don't want to say the price because I don't want to be wrong. And just because I'm reading it on the website. And so what is it? Just so I don't say it wrong.
Yeah, I'll tell it. I don't mind. So
I don't either. I just don't want to say the wrong price.
No problem. The retail price of the course is $1,199. But this at the 67% savings, we're doing it for you guys for the next 48 hours. It'll be $399. So if you guys want to go in there,
Thank you.
And before you click the buy button, you don't just get taken to a page and click a buy button. You'll actually watch a couple of videos about exactly what is going to be taught during that course and a lot of information before you get to the part where you finally say, hey, I'm in. So
got it.
Check it out.
And guys, the link to what we're talking about is down in the chat button on the control panel to your right, I would believe, unless you moved it. There's a chat arrow. If it's pointing sideways, just hit it and it'll drop down. There's a chat arrow there, and then that link is inside of there. And Michael, can you see that in the chat box down there? Okay. And if anybody doesn't see it, just let me know in the question box if you want the link. Suzanne has it. Can you repeat? Tonya, can you repeat the marketing book that you talked about really quick? You said you questioned the marketing book.
Yeah, it's 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing is one that is always a go-to for me. It was written a long time ago by Al Reese and Jack Trout.
Trout, yeah.
And Reese is spelled R-E-I-S, I believe, or R-I-E-S, one of those two. Al Reese and Jack Trout.
Here's a great question.
All these years later, that's a good book.
It's a
so good. Okay, cool. Great. I'm going to pick that one up. Can you create a few brands? Like, this is a great question. I think a lot of people think I want a brand for first-time home buyers. I want a brand for veterans. I want a brand for listing mastery. Or shared question is create a few brands and market a different message for each.
Yes. So brands are developed really on several different levels. So we look at usually about 6 different things when we look at branding somebody. We'll look at their customer type and their geographic location and the property types that they focus on. Those 3 things are kind of top level. However, here's a little secret for you. We almost never brand on those 3. We almost never brand someone because those things can change. They can change. The other is expertise, attributes, and I want to say expertise, attributes. That may just be 5. But expertise and attributes basically are your knowledge, your expertise, your training, your success, your something about your personality. Maybe you're super responsive and that's the one thing that stands out about you. Maybe you are a researcher. We had one lady come into our program that was an insurance litigator before she became a real estate agent, and her brand is the closer. And why is that? Because she makes sure that she gets you to that closing table as fast as possible, because she's already been through litigation in another industry. And she knows how the contracts work. She knows what to look for. She's proactive. And so if you think about those things, there are so many different ways to brand. Everybody always goes straight to the waterfront. Well, brand you as waterfront, or I'll brand you as first-time home buyer or seniors or whatever. And that's part of the brand. It's you put some of that in your messaging so you know you're attracting some of those people. But I would not say that we brand specifically on those things very often.
Right.
It's a mystery, I know, but there is a formula. There is a formula for it. And to answer your question, I've had people challenge me on a sales call and say, well, good luck, because really there's not anything different about me than anybody else out there. We all say the same things. We all try hard to work at the same things. It's like, no, you're so mistaken. You are special. You are special. Yeah. And I'd like to throw this in. A lot of times people say, well, I want you to make me a star. We don't make stars, we unveil them. We dig to find out what is inside, what star quality is inside you, because every one of you has it. every single one of you.
Absolutely.
Love that. Love that. Stephanie's asking a great question. She says, if we start with the team as one, and then do you create a brand that can grow as you add team members, or what would be the mindset there? Great question.
You definitely want to do that. Like, so the idea, again, going back to the myth, now, when you come up with an identifier, you don't want that identifier, it doesn't have to say everything that you do, but then pulling also from that being different and versus being subjective, right? You want your tagline to be something that you can grow, and it doesn't like impede you. So like, it wouldn't be a good idea in my idea to say, hey, I'm the first time home buyer agent, right? And I'm just using that for example, because you might not, that might not encompass everything that you do in the future, right? It might be your ideal customer now, but you may grow into different parts. So you want to look for something that is inarguable. That's very important, because if you do it right, people are going to challenge you on it, right? So you want it to be inarguable, and then you definitely want it to be a suit that you can grow into and doesn't impede any type of a future growth. Because like, you don't want, we teach this all the time, like in real estate, no matter what you do, you think that, okay, I want to help anybody that calls me that I can make a commission on, right? In any of the ancillary businesses of real estate or whatever. And that is the right thought process in the beginning. But what you want to do when you're building your business, and you have to look at it like that, like the minute I have an agent say, well, I'm looking for a job, I'm like, okay, you need to be in real estate, you need to be looking for an entire lifestyle, because you're going to have to eat this, live it, breathe it. People are like, when are you open? I'm like, when am I closed? I'm open 24/7. You know what I mean? I'll block out the times that I'm closed, but for the sake of conversation, it's 24/7, because we always have to be on our guard. We never know where the next prospect's going to come from, right? So you don't want to be you don't want to go after everybody. Like, you don't want it to be a brand for this specific genre and this specific genre and this specific genre. You want one brand that is over encompassing. That's just the hook. That's the hook on the song. It's the hook in the commercial. It's the thing that gets stuck in their head. It's the thing that people say, well, I saw 5 different realtors and this is the only one that had a tagline. Your type of thing, okay? And then whatever that is, it'll allow you to grow inside of that, because you could have a team where this particular person is the first time home buyer. You could set up a team where you start that. Everybody knows that's the lower price housing, right? But you really want to get up here to this $1 million listing, because you're going to work just as hard on it as you are that $200,000 starter property, right? So, but you might build in the long-term future that you have each one of those brands underneath the big brand. So just come up with something that you're not going to outgrow. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
I think it's great. Great way to answer it.
And the course takes you through the whole process of how to choose your ideal customers, and also how to narrow down through a funnel of what it is that really differentiates you.
Yeah, the course is very concise with that. We work really hard, and of course have hundreds of case studies where we've watched like what has happened when people started here, because we have a lot of people that just want to be one agent. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the lifestyle that you want to live. And we have others that are building entire brokerages around the principles. And so, and I'm one of those. And everything that I learned from Tonya and still do to this day, and now train other people in my company to do, all of it came from BrandFace, and it is all in that package. It's in the package. Beautiful. You can choose to buy. Yep. And
beautiful. And the last question before we leave here, so he's asking, if you had a lot of experience in another career prior to real estate, how might you leverage that in your branding? I'm sure people talk about that before, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's actually not nearly as difficult as people think it is. So we've even had, I think we've got, no kidding, 3 different real estate agents in our program that used to be nurses. Awesome. And so what you really do what we did in those cases is, one of the things we work into their brand is that very nurturing aspect of things. The hand holding, the guiding, the patience level that they earned and they learned through nursing. We have a guy who used to be a minister before he became a real estate agent. And we're utilizing the things that the attributes and the benefits, the things that he learned being a counselor to married couples and youths while he was a minister. So
we have a professional musician that is in real estate now.
Yep.
We use his guitar playing. Yep, of course.
Dude, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Yes, brilliant. So absolutely. So, hey, Tonya and Michael, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You guys I can just tell you guys are awesome people, and thank you so much for being here and giving us your time. And it's awesome what you guys are doing to help other agents create their brand, build their brand, unleash the star that they have inside them. And you know, I don't know why this came to me, but I Googled chance of being born, right? Because Michael, you said you are very special. It's 1 in 400 quadrillion chance of being born. So like, that's how crazy it is that we're even here on this webinar together. You know, I mean, like that's so crazy.
That.
Isn't that amazing?
That is a first,
so,
Scott.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So I don't know why I thought of that, but thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate your time as always. Go out there, go to their, and I'll make sure and post their link inside of if you're not part of the private Facebook group, it's facebook.com/groups/Agent Mastermind. We're coming up on 20,000 members. Make sure that it says real estate agent in your profile. We'll only let real estate agents in. It's not a place to sell. It's a place to ask questions, collaborate, learn. And Tonya and Michael, I'd love to have you guys as part of the group inside there, and we'll post the link in there for you guys to take advantage of that. So thank you so much, guys, for taking time and sharing your wisdom and success with us. And Tonya, you and I have to get back and maybe do a Kirby, whatever that other vacuum is you sold, like sell off.
A vacuum off.
That'd be awesome.
I still remember all those selling points.
Hey, I'm gonna put you at a disadvantage, Scott, real quick, because I have been in the home. I have been in the home of a couple that she sold a vacuum cleaner to like 3 decades ago, and she's still using it. So
all right, I still have mine. So yeah.
She lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. She bought that vacuum cleaner from me 30-something years ago.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. I love it.
Crazy.
It's the best story.
Thank
all right,
you
guys.
for your
Same time,
kind words.
same place. Yeah. Thank you, Tonya. Thank you, Michael. Same time, same place next week, right here on Agent Mastermind. Everybody have a great day, great week, and we'll see you guys on the web. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.